Right. Lots of running down endless corridors. Okay. Right then, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome, one and all. My name is Paul. I'm also called Knickknack. I'm the brains behind a set of daily brain teasers called Knickknack's Daily Brain Teasers. I talk about movies I've seen. I've seen No Time to Die just recently, but I also talk about TV shows I've watched. I caught Lovecraft Country a few months ago, and the fact that that's got cancelled after one series is something that really is bloody annoying. It was an excellent series, had plenty more legs in it. At any rate, I've also been watching Evil of the Daleks just recently. I saw an episode of that last night on New Year's Eve. There you go, that's my life in a nutshell. But I also tonight have seen Eve of the Daleks, the most recent Jodie Whittaker 13th Doctor episode, the New Year's special, and I thought I'd tell you about it. Eve of the Daleks opens just outside Elf Storage, showing us the company's boss, Sarah, played by Aisling Bea, feeling especially harassed. The one employee, Jeff, has phoned in as he's unable to get to work. To make matters worse, her one regular customer, Nick, a Johnny Salmon, has turned up at the usual last minute wanting to put just one last thing into storage in his unit. Only for him to find a strange robot standing in front of me as he leaves his unit, which quickly and decently and immediately kills him stone dead. Meanwhile, the Doctor, Jodie Whittaker, is filling in details for Yaz and Dan, Mandeep Gill and John Bishop. She's setting up the system needed to reset the TARDIS so she can clear junk out of it left over from the flux. Her only issue is something of a safety one. She, Dan and Yaz will need to be out of the ship as the process starts in 7 minutes' time, and they can't be in the TARDIS while it resets. Typically for the Doctor, and something long-time fans will know, is she's promised her companions a brief trip to the intergalactic beauty spot San Monrover. It's only when they get out of the door, Yaz and Dan find what many of the Doctor's companions have found before. They're not in a beautiful beauty spot, they're in a place with a hell of a lot of corridors, and that dead body over there looks like it's been shot by a Dalek. It's only when all three are shot and killed by a heavily armed Dalek themselves and revived, moving back in time a few minutes later, that they realise that they and Sarah and Nick, the only other two people in the building, are trapped in a time loop that's going to take a while to get out of. What did I make of Eve of the Daleks? Have I seen a good, bad, or indifferent episode? Before I tell you that, let's start with the absolute very end of the episode, shall we? The bit that teases the next episode that's due sometime in spring. It's called Legend of the Sea Devils. It's apparently going to be set in medieval China, and it has got no more specific release date than spring. The actual revamped or revived Sea Devils in this upcoming episode actually do look quite good. I've got a picture of them in front of me as I'm reading the script out, and they do look quite nasty. I'm looking forward to it. We've seen the Silurians in modern Doctor Who, but not their marine cousins, so it's interesting to see what the revived series can do with it. Eve of the Daleks itself, though, am I going to say good, bad, or indifferent? What do you think I'm going to say? How would I rate it in my 4-star system? I have to say, I think it's a thoroughly fantastic episode. I thoroughly enjoyed Eve of the Daleks. It's an episode that, with its time loop structure, is something that had me sat on the edge of my seat, paying very close attention, so I could watch the small minor variations in each loop that sort of slowly forward the episode. It's something Like I say, I was glued to the episode, watching for the minor changes in each repeat of the loop. It's a minute shorter each time, I should add, while silently urging on our heroes not to get caught by the Daleks. I've seen one other time leap episode of a TV show off the top of my memory. It was a Star Trek Next Generation story called Cause and Effects. It's the one where each loop starts at the bridge crew's weekly poker game, and it starts there looping around there. It's a great little episode. But it's one that's very different to Eve of the Daleks. Cause and Effect is like Star Trek at some of its finest. It's quite a cerebral, thoughtful episode. It's slow moving. And very unlike Eve of the Daleks, which is very, very action-packed. It's got a lot of gunfights, it's got a lot of people getting killed, it's possibly got quite a body count to it, and it's also got a hell of a lot of running down corridors. More on that later. Given I've been watching Evil of the Daleks just recently, over the past few weeks, and paying attention to how detailed the animated Daleks look in there. If you look at the eye stalk in some of the close-ups in Evil of the Daleks, especially the colour version, there's little screws in the iris that move when the iris expands and contracts, to give you an example. So I was paying maybe more attention to the Daleks in Eve of the Daleks than I could or should have been. They looked great. Had them hiding in shadows quite effectively in Eve of the Daleks. It's quite something to see. You will literally see just the stalk coming out of the shadows first. I was also paying attention to the design of what's been called an exterminator Dalek, a sort of hard squad, if you will, a sort of special forces Dalek featured in this episode. The big difference, indeed the only difference that I could see, was a grabber type replacement for the usual sink plunger arm and a rotary Gatling gun style gun arm. It's not the usual egg whisk, it's an egg whisk with a Gatling gun on the end of it. It's quite something to see. They look pretty much like the standard new series Daleks, and in fact that's what I suspect they are. They're the standard new series Dalek, but they've just had the arms replaced. They're easily replaceable prop gun arms and grabber arms that are easily replaced, and I'm assuming quite cheap to replace. You just take the gun and the sink plunger out, replace it with a new grabber and Gatling gun. Daleks aside, action aside, Eve of the Daleks still has its character moments. I think I've mentioned in one or two of my reviews of the various episodes of Doctor Who Flux that Yaz and Dan, Mandy Gill and John Bishop seem to work well together in the various promotional stunts they do for these things. And they seem to work, again, very well with Jodie Whittaker herself, as that all three interact very well, and a lot better than Yaz, Ryan and Graham. Tosin Cole, Bradley Walsh and Mandy Gill. They interact a lot better. So for this episode, it's quite good to see that Yaz and Dan work well together and are friends and honestly get on well together. And it's the fact that the two do work well together that has helped in this episode. There is at least one scene where the pair quite frankly discuss Yaz's feelings for the Doctor. And that's a certain scene that I think has implications going forward, I think. I don't think we're going to get lesbian kissing in an episode of Doctor Who, or at least not in the immediate future, but it looks like that relationship is going to be quite an important plot thread going forward. I don't know if... See, I walked away with half an idea in Peter Capaldi's last series that his replacement might be a woman, purely and simply because the Russell T Davies era had raised the possibility of a sort of romantic attraction between the Doctor and his or her companion. Capaldi's last 12th Doctor companion was a gay female character, was Bill Potts, played by Pearl Mackie. And that to me seemed to be an indication that possibly if they picked up a romantic thing, they could pick up a lesbian romantic situation. So they seem to have written that in to the relationship between the Doctor and Yaz in tonight's episode. That's wonderful for inclusivity. That's kind of nice to see. It's all very left wing and wonderful, and I've got no problem with it. But I'm also thinking, does that imply that the next Doctor, the 14th Doctor, may be another woman? I don't know. It just, if the romance thing is something they choose to keep, or that Russell T Davies chooses to act on when he takes back over, it's an option to follow. He may or may not cast a woman. We don't know yet. It'd be interesting to see what they do and see if that's an indication. Either way, I have sat down tonight with an action-packed episode that's got charm, that's got pathos, has got emotional ups and downs, and with questions and plot threads that are hopefully going to be resolved in the rest of this year's specials. Specials I'm personally looking forward to. Right at the moment, I am going to be finishing this video off. I'm going to be adding a postscript and a pre-title sequence.
It's 23:30.
You'll have probably noticed those. And with that said, I'm going to close this video and hit the sack. I want to get some sleep because I had a late night last night as well. With all of that said, I will be watching and reviewing Legends of the Sea Devils when it's out in spring. I'll be watching and reviewing the next episode of Evil and the Daleks on Friday the 7th of January, and I hope you would care to join me and read what I have to say about them on the dates concerned. I'll see you then. I wish you a happy new year, and don't fall over. Just so you know, and in case you didn't realise, Lenny Henry, who cropped up in Spyfall, his first brush with Doctor Who was back in a parody version he did in the mid-80s, running away from Cybermen down lots and lots of endless corridors. It's been something of a running gag ever since, at least in some people's minds.